If something financially unexpected was to happen to you, how would you pay for it? I'm assuming that most people would respond with, oh, a credit card. But is that actually the best financial solution? Having some money set aside helps for you to pay for any unexpected bills or financial situations in your life that you are not preparing for. Things such as job loss or a drop in income. Now, there are two ways to help you have some money set aside to avoid making those mistakes that will put you in a worse financial situation. These are called an emergency and savings account, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. Let's first jump into what is an emergency fund. The purpose of an emergency fund is to help you to pay for high unexpected bills or to help you to prepare for a financial change. The goal is to keep you from borrowing or maxing out your credit cards if life becomes a financial challenge. Depending on who you speak to, some people say that you should have at least 6 months worth of your expenses put to the side, while others say 3 months, 12 months, or even 1 month. Again, this is a very personal decision and it should be made based on your current lifestyle and also your foreseeable future. For example, I'm actually saving up for 3 months worth of expenses, which is roughly around $7,000. Things to take into consideration when you are creating your emergency fund, or the goal that you want your emergency fund to total, is the stability of your job. My job, for example, is pretty stable. I am a teacher. It is very, very unlikely that the entire government will shut down all schools and there will be no work for me. However, if this was to happen, I can use my emergency fund to fund my current lifestyle comfortably. Not only is it to help you out with financial stability, it is also to stop some of those nasty costs that we don't see coming. We've all have those unexpected bills or things happen to us that we need to pay for. Things such as flat tires, a flat battery, and even being stuck on an island somewhere. Actually, all three of those things have actually happened to me in probably the last 5 years. Yes, I have been stuck on an island somewhere. The important thing to note with an emergency fund is that as soon as you take money out, you actually need to top it up as soon as you possibly can, because an emergency or an unexpected expense can arise anytime, anywhere. So that is an emergency fund. Let's move on to savings account. Now, a savings account is when you set money aside for a particular financial goal. The goal can be short-term, such as saving up for a wedding, a house deposit, or even saving up for a brand new or second used car. It can also be used for long-term, such as setting up your retirement fund. It is a very, very personal account and there is no minimum or maximum that you can have your goal to achieve. A savings account differs from an emergency account because it has a particular time frame in which you want to achieve that goal and when you are going to be spending that money. It's when you want to buy a particular item or there is a particular expense like a holiday or a wedding that you know you are definitely going to spend that money towards at some point in time. This is up to you, but I've actually kept my emergency fund and my savings account separately just because the total or the overall goal that I want to achieve for each of those accounts are very, very different. Like I said, my emergency fund, I would really love a total of $7,000 in there. However, my savings account, depending on what I'm saving up for, it could be $1,000 for a new iPhone, it could be $5,000 for a holiday, it could be, maybe to buy a second home, it could be $50,000. I've also kept them separate because if something was to happen, I don't want that unexpected expense to impact my savings goal or my savings routine or my habits. If something unexpected was to happen, I don't want that expense to financially impact my savings account. I want to keep that savings account for that particular item because that's the thing that I'm working towards. Whereas an emergency, if say for example, my fridge broke down and I needed to go and get another one, that doesn't actually impact my savings account. It will only impact my emergency fund. And once I buy the fridge, over the next couple of months, I will then top that emergency fund up. So now you might be wondering, well, which one's more important? Well, they both kind of have equal importance. However, at this point in time in my life, I'm really focusing on my emergency fund, and that one's the one that is the most important to me. I really want to build up my emergency fund as well as create an FU fund instead of a savings account. If you don't know what an FU fund is, please make sure that you do give this video a big thumbs up and I'd be more than happy to make a video on it. My dream at the moment is to actually reduce my hours in my full-time job to go part-time, so then I can focus on things like YouTube that actually kind of that actually really motivate me and that allow me to do things when I want to do them. I just want more free time, really. Also to note, I'm not actually saving up for anything in particular at the moment. I'm not planning on going overseas anytime soon on a big holiday because frankly we can't go anywhere. I'm not planning on getting married anytime soon. We've just bought a house a year and a half ago, so I actually don't have a need to save up for a large amount of money. So what I'm doing instead is, instead of actually creating a savings account, I'm actually putting that money towards investments because that's my long-term savings goal. Even though it's not a savings goal, it's purely for me to be able to retire early, hopefully by the time I'm 40, which is in 10 years. I'd like to know what you think. Do you have both an emergency fund and a savings account, or do you just stick with one or the other? I would really also like to note that you can also pay off your debt if you are in it, as well as build up your emergency fund. I think it's really important to be prioritizing both in our lives, because what happens if an unexpected expense comes up, you don't have an emergency fund, and you put that expense on your credit card. You're then putting yourself into more debt, which is not ideal. I know that a lot of people don't actually make this a priority, but I think that if you really do want financial success and if you really do want to start building up your financial wealth, these two accounts are really important within your budget. So how do you actually find the total for your emergency fund? So what you actually want to work towards. So what you need to actually do is to print off a bank statement and highlight all of the things that are an expense to your life. So the things that you cannot live without. So if it's rent, car, petrol, groceries, gas, water, all of those things, you then need to take that monthly total or that monthly average and then times that average by the amount of months you would like your emergency fund to be. So say for example, my monthly expenses are around $2,400-ish. So if I times 2,400, that roughly brings me up to around 7,200 for 3 months. If I wanted to make that total into a 12-month emergency fund, I would need to take that $2,400 and times that by 12, which would give me roughly around $28,800 for the entire year. Emergency funds are also really empowering too. If you are in a job that you absolutely hate and that you can't stand anymore, or if you are wanting to try something new, take a chance on yourself, you can actually quit that job and rely on your emergency funds to fund your expenses for the next year or so. That's what also I find really motivating, is that if I'm in a job that I cannot stand, I would much rather have that money set aside and dip into that than stay in a job that I'm not happy in. Anyway guys, that is it for today's video. I really hope that you did enjoy. Please make sure that you do leave a comment down below. Also hit that subscribe button and that like button as well. It also really helps out my channel, and I will see you in a video sometime in the very near future. Bye!